When internet fame turns criminal, the Uber driver who almost died for views. There are some jokes that should never happen. And sometimes those jokes become crimes, not because they were meant to be, but because they toyed with the fragile line between life and death. Do you remember the feeling when you see someone running across the street with a ski mask over their face, carrying duffel bags stuffed with cash? Your heart races, your hands tremble as you pull out your phone to dial 911. It's no longer a joke. It's real fear. And there was one man, an Uber driver just trying to make enough money to cover dinner for his family, who lived that exact moment, thinking he could die at any second because of a prank by two famous boys on YouTube. This story didn't begin any differently than a typical prank video. Twin brothers, Alan and Alex Stokes, known for prank clips, challenges, and social experiments. They had it all, a massive following, screaming fans, and a hunger that only grew bigger. One day in October 2019, while California was still bathed in golden sunlight, they decided to do the craziest thing ever on their channel. Not jumping off bridges, not eating bugs, not smashing stuff. No, they would pretend to rob a bank. It's gonna look super real. We'll wear black, grab bags of money, run through the streets, and hop in an Uber like actual robbers. It's gonna be fun, people will laugh. Plus, this video is definitely going viral. We keep talking about getting views, but no one mentions that sometimes those views come at the cost of someone else's life. The real emotion starts here, because when they stepped onto the street wearing masks, stuffing bags with fake money, and calling an Uber, an innocent soul walked into a tragedy he never saw coming. Have you ever imagined sitting in your car alone and suddenly two masked men jump in, out of breath, shouting at you to drive like they're fleeing a crime? You know, one wrong turn and you could be shot by police. Killed by a misunderstanding that wasn't even yours. And just like that, minutes later, the police showed up. Someone yelled, "They're jacking that car, they've got weapons." And him, the Uber driver, just sat there panicked, not understanding what was happening. And the most heartbreaking part is they still didn't stop. In a world where everything is measured by views, likes, and comments, sometimes people stop thinking with their conscience. They start calculating with the algorithm. Alan and Alex, two twin boys with bright smiles, sparkly eyes like they've never done anything wrong, were sitting in their small apartment at that moment, rewatching the footage, laughing out loud at people's reactions. That Uber dude was terrified, eyes bulging, looked like a scene straight out of a movie. And did you see the camera catch the cops pulling their guns? That was epic. And then, the question came, why don't we do it again, but this time with more people? Sound familiar? That's the same force that drove medieval zealots to burn people alive in public squares. The same thing that pushed a modern teenager to livestream his own suicide, just to be seen one last time. The need to be seen, sometimes it's so overwhelming, it turns ordinary people into someone they no longer recognize. In psychology, it's called digital moral disengagement. The more eyes you think are watching, the easier it becomes to justify your actions just to stay in the spotlight for a few more minutes. But this isn't theory, this is real. That October, while most teens were stressing over homework or their first date, the Stokes brothers were planning to restage their fake bank robbery for the second time, just hours after nearly getting an innocent man killed. And this time they wanted it bigger, more chaotic, more dramatic. You know what's scarier than a fake robbery? When the people behind it know the consequences and still choose to do it again. They weren't innocent, they just weren't afraid. And that's when the story turned into something darker, where the fear no longer came from ski masks, but from the real faces hiding behind them. Alan and Alex returned to the costume shop that afternoon. In their hands was a list, not props for a movie, but ingredients to stage the illusion of a real crime. Black ski masks, all black hoodies pulled tight, heavy leather duffel bags, empty for now but soon to be stuffed with fake cash. And most importantly, a scheduled Uber pickup who had no idea what he was walking into. This time, everything was planned more carefully. They didn't want to just pretend to run. They wanted the audience to feel like they were witnessing a real robbery in progress. Because only primal fear, only the instinct to survive gets you millions of views. And that's what makes this part terrifying. Not because they looked like criminals, but because they wanted to look like a real nightmare. Do you remember those incidents where mass shooters stormed schools wearing masks? Ever seen the eyes of a survivor recounting the story, saying they never saw the shooter's face, only a shadow, a nameless phantom? That image, that exact haunting, is what these two boys were trying to recreate for fun. I don't think they wanted to kill anyone, but they dressed like people who could. And that means everyone around them would react like they were facing death. You know what's worse than a killer? Someone who doesn't understand they're creating death with stupidity. The cameras rolled, hidden behind a hedge. The twins fist bumped, counted down, then ran across the parking lot, bags swinging, masks pulled tight, breaths sharp and fast like a scene from The Purge. Bystanders shouted, "Call the cops, they're robbing a bank, they're getting away," and just like in the script, the Uber pulled up. And that's when death came knocking at the neck of an innocent man. The driver, no name, no script, no prep. Just a man doing his night shift so his daughter could pay tuition. He looked up and saw two shadows dive into his car. One of them shouted, "Drive, step on it." This was no longer a joke. This was the soul's journey of a man from trust to panic to praying he wouldn't die under the barrel of a cop's gun. And if there's anything you could call a demon in the real world, it's indifference dressed up as content. And then they jumped into the car. The door slammed shut with a chilling clack. Outside, the shouting had already started. A middle-aged woman dropped her grocery bags when she saw two masked men with money bags dive into the car. A little girl screamed, voice shaking, "Mommy, those bad men, they're gonna shoot." What happens when you mix three elements together? A face hidden behind a black ski mask, money bags that look freshly stolen from a vault, and a panicked driver, eyes wide like he's about to pass out. You get a full-blown crisis. Phones started ringing across the city. 911 got the first call at 3:42 p.m. The caller, a 40-year-old man walking through the parking lot. Two guys just robbed a bank. They jumped into a car and Uber. They've got weapons. Not even 90 seconds later, 911 got another call. A woman had just rushed into a Starbucks, her hands trembling. "I saw a gun. I swear it was a gun. Maybe an AK." They're headed toward Campus Drive. The original prank video script, meant to be a fun fake getaway, suddenly became the perfect simulation of a terrorist attack. I know what you're thinking. It's just a prank. They didn't have real guns. But don't forget, the police didn't know that. The public didn't know that. And in American society, where police are allowed to shoot based on suspicion alone, the difference between fake and real can be decided with a single trigger pull. And sure enough, the police sprang into action. The first patrol car sped in with flashing lights. Inside was Officer Reyes, a man who'd witnessed a real bank robbery in Anaheim 3 years earlier. He radioed in, "Possible armed robbery." Fast movement, faces covered, crowd in panic, requesting immediate backup. In that moment, the entire city held its breath. Within the next 4 minutes, 5 additional units from neighboring districts joined in. The perimeter tightened. Police GPS screens lit up with one flashing red dot, the Uber, the primary target. And the driver, the innocent man behind the wheel, was now marked as a possible accomplice. He was just trying to find a way out of the parking lot, but every road had become a potential death trap. You know what makes this part so terrifying? Not that someone fired a gun, not that someone died, but that everything was fake, and yet someone could have really died. The police don't need proof to pull the trigger. Just one wrong move, one loud scream, or one and exactly 6 minutes after the first 911 call was logged, a sixth police car cut across the intersection and stopped right in front of the moving Uber. The car jerked to a stop. The driver's door stayed shut. The two masked guys in the back were still giggling, the camera was still rolling. But no one inside that car knew outside a command had already been issued. Draw your weapons. There may be firearms in the vehicle. The youngest officer on the squad, Jenkins, 27 years old, fresh out of the academy less than a year, was the first to approach. His hands trembled as he raised his Glock to shoulder level. His eyes locked on the driver's seat. His heart pounded, not because he was sure this was a crime in progress, but because he had no way of knowing what the hell was going on. He shouted, "Driver, hands up right now, do not move, we will shoot." And in that moment, every soul on that block just froze. Like the whole world had collapsed into that one car. The man, the Uber driver, who thought he was just on another weird fare was now the target. His head shook slightly. His eyes reddened, his body froze, and his hands slowly rose into the air. Neither of the Stokes brothers moved. Maybe they still thought this was part of the prank, but the cops, they weren't thinking prank. Another officer stepped up to the window, shouting, "Open the door, get out, face down on the ground." And then they pulled the man out of the car, shoved him hard onto the searing California pavement, cuffed him, searched him. Asked his name, his address, if he had anything to do with the robbery. He didn't understand. His voice cracked. I just drive Uber, I don't even know who they are," but his words were lost in a sea of sirens and shouting. If there was ever a soul that felt ripped out of its body, it was his. The soul of a man stripped of his identity, his right to safety, even his faith in the society he served. The most chilling part, he didn't die, but he knew he could have. All it would have taken was one trigger pull 1 second too soon, one officer misunderstanding, one small move, just one wrong thought. And through it all, the two masked guys in the back seat were still laughing, the camera still rolling, and their eyes held not even a flicker of the fear they had just dumped onto someone else. And then the police found out it was just a joke, a prank, a YouTube video, but you know what's scarier than a misunderstanding? It's that the price of that misunderstanding didn't fall on the ones who caused it. It fell on the person closest to them. The police later released all 3 of them. No shots were fired, no blood was spilled. Only trembling heartbeats, wrists still marked from the cuffs, and one soul, the Uber driver's, now shattered, torn to pieces. Officer Jenkins, the one who had raised his gun, looked at Alan and Alex with heavy eyes. "I know you guys are YouTubers, I know you want to shock people, but you're damn lucky. Lucky no one's dead, I'm letting this go today, but don't do it again." And at that moment everyone thought, that's it, it's over. A lesson learned. But if you've ever raised a child who tests boundaries, you'll know without consequences there's no lesson. If everything ends in a warning, to someone addicted to the spotlight, that's not the end, that's rehearsal. And just like the script of a tragedy refusing to lower its curtain, just 4 hours later, the brothers got in the car again. This time, it wasn't the downtown parking lot. They chose the campus of UC Irvine, a major university with thousands of students. Amid rows of trees and lecture halls, couples flirting on the grass, and students cramming for midterms. 2 YouTube artists quietly stepped out of the car, and dressed in black again, covered their faces again, carried those fake money bags again. Is the camera ready? There are more people here, we'll get better reactions. This is going to top this morning. None of them mentioned the Uber driver. No one asked, is he okay? No one remembered the gun pointed at someone's head just hours earlier. They only remembered how cinematic that shot looked, and how many views it might rack up if they did it again. You see, evil in this age doesn't always carry knives or clubs, it doesn't need blood, just a lens and a silent pair of viewers. And so they began again, running, screaming. Fake money flying in the wind, people startled. A student dropped his laptop when he saw the ski mask, and in just under 3 minutes, the 11th 911 call of the day was recorded. I think someone's running around the campus, it looks like they have weapons. Another officer, Lieutenant Herrera, later recalled, when I got the call, YouTube never crossed my mind. I just thought of the Virginia Tech shooting. Because in America, where every student is taught how to hide under desks when a gunman storms a classroom, seeing someone in a mask screaming, "Run," that's no longer a joke, and the tragedy repeated, like a vicious cycle. Like a soul that couldn't pass on, because those who summoned it never truly faced its consequences. They ran, they screamed, they pretended to stumble like they'd just escaped a shootout. Fake money flew across the campus lawn, and just as expected, people panicked. A student named Jeremy, 19, later recalled, "I was studying with headphones on when people started running. I thought it was an active shooter. My friend shouted, 'They've got guns, run,' and we hid under the library table. It wasn't until later that we found out it was fake. But in that moment, I swear I saw death. Not everyone ran. Some students stood and watched, curious. Some recognized them, the Stokes Twins. A few chuckled, but others called 911, hands shaking so badly they could barely dial. A girl named Sophia was on her way to psychology class. She thought about the day her mom got mugged a decade ago in New Jersey. She dropped her phone and froze in the middle of the courtyard, and she peed her pants, not out of shame, but because her body's memory, where fear resides, took over. Alan, Alex, and their cameraman dashed past the dorms, laughing loudly. People bought it again. "This one's gotta get double the views." They stopped by a tree and began retelling the entire morning like they'd just returned from war. We got in the Uber, put on the masks, money bags in hand. Driver freaked out, kicked us out. 1 minute later, 10 cop cars surrounded us. AR-15 aimed straight at the dude. Swear to God, they thought he was an accomplice. Laughter. Laughter like no one nearly died. Laughter like the gun earlier was just a stage prop. But in that laughter, no one saw anything but two souls stripped of their sense of reality. You know what syndrome makes people repeat dangerous behaviors just to feel a thrill? That's anhedonia, the inability to feel joy from normal things. And it makes people addicted to the feeling of someone else almost dying. And in that moment, two boys turned a university campus into a stage to test primal reflexes. Not to learn, but to see how many would run. If the first part of this story was the shock, this part is the slap to every moral value. After the second prank ended, Alan and Alex, no running, no shame, walked out to the center of campus, removed their masks, and smiled wide. Then they bragged, "Bro, remember the Uber guy's face this morning? Like he saw a ghost, I thought he was gonna faint." Then 10 cops pointing AR-15s at him. "You saw that clip, right? Well, he was shaking like he was about to piss himself." They laughed like someone's life was a prop, laughed like death was just a cool camera shot. A student asked, "Wait, the cops didn't arrest you guys?" They replied, "No bro, we talk our way out of anything. Besides, who dares arrest someone famous?" And there it is. That smile wasn't just insensitivity. It was the sign of a soul gone rotten, not from evil, but from losing the ability to feel consequences. Psychology calls it moral disengagement, the complete detachment from guilt. No need to hide it, no need to justify it, just turn the mistake into a trophy. A cop at the scene later shared, "I saw them on a bench, panting, retelling their morning like it was a war story. I wanted to step in, but orders were clear. No one injured, no technical violation. It was one of those gray zones." The gray zone, where the law isn't sharp enough to cut through stupidity, where morality has no lines, where a smile can kill just not fast enough. That night the video was edited. Clips of the Uber, the gun, the fleeing crowds, the screaming, all cut with slow motion, suspenseful music, and the title, "Bank Robbery Prank Gone Wrong, We Almost Got Arrested." The video hit 1 million views in less than 36 hours. Pinned comment, "That Uber driver was terrified, bro, this prank is legendary." No one asked, is he still alive? Did he ever drive again? Did his daughter hear about it? No one, because pain doesn't make a good thumbnail. But justice, it doesn't need to be pretty. It only needs evidence. Nearly a year later, when the prank had faded, when the scandal had disappeared from YouTube's trending tab, a young assistant district attorney in Orange County, just looking for material for a workshop on social media abuse, stumbled across the video. She didn't fast forward, she watched it from start to finish, paused at the Uber driver's eyes, paused at the moment a gun was pointed at an innocent man's face, and she wrote an internal report, 3 pages, sent it to her superior. 4 weeks later, a formal indictment was signed. 2 charges: false imprisonment, unlawfully restraining another person, even for just a moment; false reporting of an emergency, creating a fake crisis that endangers the public. The district attorney spoke at a press conference. This is no longer just a prank. This was a deliberate act of public endangerment. If you record yourself committing a crime and post it online, you've provided the strongest confession there is. Both brothers were summoned. No more laughter, no more costumes, only lawyers, courtrooms, and a lesson that came too late. And for the first time since their legendary prank video, Alan and Alex were silent. No live streams. No behind-the-scenes vlogs. No reaction clips. Just 2 worn-out bodies walking into a courtroom, carrying behind them the collective soul of fear they once created. The Uber driver wasn't there, but his testimony was read aloud word for word. "I couldn't sleep for 6 months after it happened. I quit driving. Every time someone in a hoodie approached my car, I felt my heart stop. My daughter asked, 'Dad, did you get shot?' And I didn't know what to say." The court did not issue a prison sentence. Because they were young, because they cooperated, because the American legal system always reserves a second chance, especially for those who smile at the right moment with the right skin color. They were sentenced to 2 years of probation, 160 hours of community service, and ordered to delete the video from YouTube. Delete the video? You think that's the end? It's not, because the internet doesn't forget. A copy of the video still circulates across Reddit, Facebook, Telegram, and each time it's viewed, that old wound gets torn open again. A former police officer shared after the trial, "I don't blame them for being foolish. I blame them for not stopping. Their biggest mistake was not recognizing that other people's fear is real. And when you laugh at real fear, you're no longer acting. You're someone who wounds the soul without needing a knife." And that's exactly it. You can laugh on your way to court. You can vlog every step as you receive a summons. You can call your lawyer and drop a tell-all video. But you can't keep laughing when the truth is read out loud from the very video you posted. The cost of fame isn't fines. It isn't hours of community service. It's the stain you carry on your record, one no algorithm can scrub clean. A year after the trial, Alan released a podcast. Said they've matured. Said the prank went too far. Said people should learn to distinguish between entertainment and crime. And then he smiled, a familiar smile. But this time no one laughed because someone is no longer a driver, he's a victim. A father who nearly died in front of his daughter through a live stream. A man who quit driving and changed careers. A soul battered in a digital world where real pain gets hashtagged as prank. You know something. Some fears in life don't require blood or corpses. They just need to be mocked enough times until your soul curls inward, no longer believing it deserves peace. The story of the Stokes twins isn't just about 2 reckless kids. It's the story of an entire generation where clout is measured in reactions and justice is filtered through algorithms.